Hello, 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 and welcome to Reasons for Rose podcast. My name is Lauren, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host here, T Bells.
T-Bell's in the house.
Hey, girl. So, everyone, Reasons for Rose podcast is a podcast where we talk about all things relationship, culture, and lifestyle. Every Thursday, you can catch us here on Spotify or wherever you find your podcasts. Stay tuned, get a drink, get comfortable, and get into this little conversation with us. So, today, guys, we're going to be talking about the very popular, most popular actually, Bridgerton. Bridgerton is a show that is drama, romance. It's very soap opera like, and it's actually a show that takes place in England in more of a historical time. Is that right, T?
I'm wondering what is the genre? I would call it a period piece, but
Right, right.
what's the official? How would you describe this genre?
It's a drama. It's a romance drama type of show, but it's just using like an old age themed like period time period or whatever. But anyways, by now y'all should have heard about Bridgerton. Please keep up. Anyways, moving along. So what we're going to be talking about in this episode today is Bridgerton and using Bridgerton as a would you say a study piece in terms of all things virginity and modesty and virtues. So the theme of our episode right now is virginity and modesty a virtue?
Mm-hmm.
So for all y'all who have seen the show, we kind of know the basic rundown. And for y'all who don't, I'm not going to ruin it, but I'm just going to give you the basic gist of everything. What the show is all about really is the idea of women finding a suitable mate. And what is a suitable mate? And furthermore, is she a woman of value? And in this particular series, they focus on women being valued for their purity, women being valued for their charm, their aesthetic, their looks, and men being valued for their status in society. Are they a duke? Are they a prince? Are they a king? And will what legacy will be created from the union of the two?
Yes. And I do definitely see a dichotomy in this series between the virginal characters and the characters that are um, deemed less, I would say they're more risque characters. So there's one character who, the opera singer, who's having an affair under the quiet, she's hidden. And then
Mm,
there is another character who is pregnant by someone.
her long lost lover who's in war.
Yeah. And she shouldn't be pregnant because she's a young girl. So
More likely, she shouldn't be pregnant because she ain't married.
that too.
That's the real tea. They don't care about your age, but you are not spoken for, right?
Mhm.
So you have a growing bastard baby in you, in their eyes, right?
Yeah.
So now the question again is modesty a virtue? Let's start with some facts. The CDC reports that virgins make up 12% of females and 14% of males aged 20 to 24. Is that surprising to you?
Wait, say that again. So men.
The CDC reports females have 12% virgin status and men have 14%. And they're in the ages of 20 to 24. So they're pretty similar. And it's pretty much about, let's just say 10 to 15% of the general population are virgins at 20 to 24. That's actually lower than I thought. I thought more people at 20 and 24 were still virgins.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
And
didn't?
I'm surprised that men and women are evenly paired or like have similar statistics.
Why are you surprised? Because I get disturbed when people are surprised by this. Let me explain. Like the idea that if you believe that women would more likely be virgins and the men are not, that would mean multiple women are taking one woman is taking multiple men's virginity. You realize that, right? Like that means like a man multiple men would be sleeping and losing their virginities with one woman in order for for there to not be a balance.
Yeah, because it's one girl taking all the guys' virginity. It's only one girl going around and blessing these guys.
That's
5 at a time.
5 out of, oh my God. See? Okay. So that's just a little bit of info for you guys to think about. Clearly, we both are biased in what we expected. Now, by the age of 25 to 29, the number drops below 5% for both male and females. So pretty much 95% of the population by 25 to 29 has had sex. Is that surprising?
It's surprising because you would think that at the very least, there's more than 5% of people who are really religious and not married. At least, like at the very least, there's that.
Okay, well, before we go on further into that particularly, what makes you a virgin?
Now, this is a very loaded question, and I don't think anyone has the right to tell anyone what that means. So,
Someone is nervous.
no, is it nervousness? I'm just
Yeah, you laughing.
I'm trying to not say anything that I'm gonna regret later on. Yeah, if you wanna go around having oral sex or having anal sex and considering yourself not to be a virgin, you could do that. But is it technically true?
Well, you technically engage in sex, right?
Yes. But I do think that the whole historical and cultural context um, of what it means to lose your virginity pertains to penetrative vaginal sex.
Right. Okay. So a virgin pretty much means someone who has never had a penis enter the vagina. Boom. Okay, got you. So that is what makes a virgin. Now we have people like you were mentioning who are technical virgins and non-technical virgins. So there is people who at a younger age, maybe in their like mid to late teens, they still want to be able to tell their parents, I'm a virgin. They feel pressure. So they do other things. They engage in other activities to get around to get around the fact they're no longer considered chaste, right? So, like you said, you can engage in other activities and not have vaginal sex, and then you can still claim you're a virgin, right?
And I was saying that, everyone defines virginity themselves. So you have to figure that out for yourself. But for me and me alone, I think that you are you're a virgin if you haven't had vaginal sex.
True, but what about the hymen? Because remember, historically, like in Bridgerton times, if they examined your vagina, if the hymen, which is a thin membrane, which actually is at the entrance of the vaginal canal, if it's torn, you would be considered to be not a virgin. And that can actually tear from horseback riding. Actually used to horseback ride with their legs on one side of the horse.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact. So
And I
that's
also read that only 50% of people have a visible hymen.
visible hymen. Okay. Okay. Fine. Fair enough.
Yeah. And with this conversation, we're keeping this a light conversation about the show, but I do want to acknowledge that this is a life and death situation for many people in the world today. And many people have this idea that you can tell if someone is a virgin, and their life is in danger based on this. So I do want to acknowledge that there are people who are going through like some serious, serious issues on when it comes to this issue of I'm not sure what the term is, if it's virginity checks. I think it's virginity checks.
Yes.
um
Yes. This is a
this,
real thing, man.
this is a serious thing. So when we're having this conversation, we're having it from the lens of Western popular culture. So definitely Canadian American English viewpoint. I do know that there is a whole other aspect of the world that sees things differently. So yeah, continue.
Yes, I like that disclaimer. I mean, guys, this is a sensitive topic. It's not for everyone. If you feel like you may be triggered by the conversation, this might be the one where you need to bow out. It is a little bit more graphic than some of our other content. So do what's right for you. Self care is everything. Protect yourself, protect your energy. But moving along, that's another thing to ask yourself. What makes you a virgin? Technical virgin versus non technical virgins. And furthermore, social pressure to engage in sex. How does that affect us? How does the movies like and the shows like Bridgerton and music affect our perspective on sex and our influences on how we decide to engage in it?
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to add that I also feel like if you've been sexually assaulted, you're still a virgin. Like even if you've been penetrated vaginally, I still think that you're a virgin because virginity is definitely is like a mental it's a mental there's a mental aspect to it and it's a social construct. It's not like, you have to define it for yourself. But yeah, so that being said, remember the days of when Britney Spears had to pretend to be virginal and modest. She had to hide that she had a belly button piercing, and people kept asking Justin Timberlake if he took her virginity, and now it's something that is in the media now because there's a Britney Spears documentary, um, and it just talks about how Justin Timberlake slut shamed Britney to advance his career.
Mm, I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah. So with the whole Crimea River, people were speculating he never stood up for her. And he did the same thing with Janet Jackson. And the reason why I bring that up is just how just to shed light on how virginity and modesty has changed throughout the years, um, and how at that time, which was 20 years ago, uh, virginity and modesty meant something that else compared to what it means today.
True.
Did I
I
take
mean,
did I go off course of what you were saying?
well, the question is, do you feel like there's social pressure to engage in sex? And do you feel like movies and music have pressured people or maybe yourself in deciding when you will decide to do that?
Yeah, so I feel like back in the day again, and this when I say back in the day, it's not even really back in the day, but 20 years ago, when Britney Spears first came out, the reason why I brought that up is because this whole virginal persona was um so important and so forced upon these artists. And when they chose to step out of it, it was like such a big deal. It was like a media campaign. It was like stop the world because
Mhm.
Britney Spears now has a dark side, right? This I think it's
Mhm.
probably when she kissed Madonna. Um but I think that was about the last era where uh virginity was something to uphold and it was something to look up to, and it was looked at for women positively. So
Right.
I'm gonna acknowledge for men it hasn't been the case. Um, but today it seems like in movies, social media, the story, the viewpoint of the virgin is completely wiped out. You have to be um engaging sexually, or you have to be like completely embracing um the title of whore. It's like there's only those two avenues you can go. The avenue of virginity and modesty is like it's completely gone in the
So
media.
you have to embrace being a whore. And what was the other one?
So either you're just going about your life and you have a healthy sex life,
So
or you're either
you're
in the
either
middle.
normal sexual or hypersexual.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
either yeah,
I don't even want to use the word normal, but let's just say you're having a
you're
healthy.
sexual or you're hypersexual.
Exactly, exactly. There's no viewpoint, there's no story, and that's why Bridgerton, to bring it back to Bridgerton, it's so interesting. There were things that I really liked about it and things I didn't like, but I feel that one of the biggest themes was virginity, modesty, and um, the worth of a woman.
The worth. So the worth of now, when you say worth of a woman, it seemed though in that show with a woman's worth, right along beside that was her modesty and her virginity.
Yes.
There was a scene where a kiss took place and there was two witnesses of the kiss, and that kiss that was witnessed became a threat to the woman's livelihood
Yes.
because she was unmarried.
Yes.
Is a woman's worth really tied to her purity? In this day and age, we in the music we're hearing, it's consistently fought against. A woman's worth is considered to be extremely separate from her sexual history. I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's great that women aren't being shamed for being sexual and having urges. In the past, women who were initiating sex, even with a husband or a partner, could be considered a nymphomaniac. And the term nymphomaniac was actually used to describe a woman who was sexual. And it was used in a negative connotation. It wasn't a positive perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there value in virginity? To me, no. There's no value to why would I value you? It's there's no value in it inherently unless you make it have a value to you. It's very personal, as you said before.
Yes.
Like um it comes down to the woman and how she views her sex and her body and how she wants to give it to someone and share it with someone, better word.
Mm-hmm.
um for me personally, I never thought virginity was something that had to be held until I thought it was the person I was going to marry. No, I
Mm-hmm.
seen it as something that is simply an experience. Your virginity simply means you don't have experience in that department yet. It's like when you first hit 16 years old and you have a blank resume. It's like having a resume with your name and your address, but no experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple, you know? You just don't have experience. It's fine.
My issue is the narrative that the only liberation and empowerment that comes with sexuality can be found with within individuals who are hypersexual, and it's great that we're having that expression, and women, hopefully we're going to get to the point where women are expressing what they want sexually. We're not there yet because we can have all the Cardi B's and Megan Thee Stallions we want.
Mm-hmm.
They still are expressing their sexuality,
Performatively.
yes, and to please the male gaze. So
Oh, yeah.
that's still, we're slowly making progress, but it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want it to get to the point where um we're not the stories the virginal stories are not being told, and we're not seeing any type of empowerment with the choice of being a virgin, um I just think that there's so many different types of virgins, and I'd like to see more of their stories. And that's why Bridgerton was refreshing. There were some parts of it, the parts of it that I really enjoyed. Like I really enjoyed how okay, I'm looking at the names now because I don't even remember their names. Okay, so Daphne is the
Hmm.
main character, I think.
Yes.
And she's with Simon. And I love the fact that Daphne there was many times that she was seen and she was getting oral sex from Simon.
Right.
And I
Receiving pleasure from her man. Hmm.
yes. And I love that. I would love to see more negotiating of that aspect of sex, like
What do
from
you mean negotiating?
like the story, like telling the story, like a narrative of um just seeing the different interplay, like whether it's a woman who is asking for that and a man is saying no, or a woman who's saying you need to do that first before you do other things. I want to see more of a varied expression of sexuality and the act of sex. So that's why I appreciated the fact that we're seeing that. There was a couple scenes that we saw that
Yes.
from Simon, and then I was dying. I was so obsessed with how Simon went about taking her virginity.
You are obsessed with how he took her virginity.
I loved how he did it. Like he just explained he explained everything. He tried to get her. He warmed her up. He like used her own hand to guide her so
Yes.
that she could
Yes.
feel more comfortable.
Yes.
Like literally. Now, keep in mind I was watching this with my family. And I was watching
Mm-mm.
my family who some of my family members who are not even in this country were watching it. We were all watching Bridgerton, so I couldn't even really appreciate it the way I wanted to appreciate it. But I just liked how that was told. And this is like we don't see that. We don't see that. And I think that's so good for young girls to see like that other side. So yes, the worth your worth and the respect you deserve has nothing to do with whether you're a virgin or not. But
Okay.
I don't want to lose um how I don't want to lose the us being able to see the that side and seeing those and watching and hearing those stories. And I also don't want um to lose the value in virginity in itself.
Fair enough, but I do think, why can't we have a woman losing virginity who knows herself? What's wrong with her if she did know how to touch herself? What would be wrong with her saying, um, I'm like, she can't a girl lose her virginity and know her body? Is that not possible?
And know her
That was
body.
all cute. Yeah, like it was all cute that he had to guide her hand to her own body, but it would be even cuter if she was like, I'm ready, grabbed him, and was like, let's go. And she was sure of her own sexuality. It was still the same traditional narrative where, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Show me the way. And I think we're past that now because I'm pretty sure we've all seen some porn.
So why but let's take, because this is like 18th century England. Let's take the scenario to um to 2021. Why would this girl Daphne why would she be a virgin and be losing her virginity to Simon? This is what I want to see more stories about. Why did she and Daphne's young, right? I'm pretty sure she's a little kid in this show, but let's say she made it to be the 5% that is over the age of 25. um let's say
Mhm.
she made it to be that 5%. I want to see more stories about why she chose to give it to Simon at that time. And I want to reject the narrative that religion is the only reason why someone could be waiting to lose their virginity.
Well, you know what? It's not true because the woman on Insecure, Yvonne, her name is Yvonne. She plays Molly in Insecure. She's actually a virgin too, to this day.
Yeah. But
And
is it because of religion? What is her reason?
I don't believe it's because of religion. I can't be sure, but she's a virgin who's a bit older.
I did watch
So
her TED Talk. So check that out because she has a TED Talk where she talks about it.
is it because of religion?
I don't remember, but I don't think so. I think she just waited
Yeah.
for the right person.
Right. And that's admirable. Like she's an adult, she's successful, she's sexy, she doesn't dress extremely different compared to what's expected in Hollywood. She's not covered up head to toe. She looks like she's comfortable with herself, but she just decided to wait, you know? And that's totally fine. It's definitely considered unusual though.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, we have modesty as another factor for Bridgerton, right? So throughout the ages, Japanese culture, I love ancient Japanese culture. I love learning about it. I would love to go to Japan. I remember from a young age watching Memoirs of a Geisha and reading the book, and they mentioned how geishas would pretty much be the connoisseurs of sensuality and seduction. They would gently turn the wrists over and present them to the men they were entertaining. They would bring and draw attention to the back of their necks, the nape of their necks, and their hair would be in updos. And those were considered the sensual and vulnerable places of a woman,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like sexuality and what we considered modesty then isn't the same as what we consider modesty today. Now women wear pants. In the past, dresses were the only type of bottom that you would see on a woman, a skirt or a dress. Pants would be considered not modest because it's showing the legs, it's showing the bum, you know? So, what is modesty today?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What is modesty? Some no, because I think modesty is still uh wearing your hemline, your dress line at a certain point. Modesty is still, you know, um keeping your keeping your chest covered. It's really hard for me to say because like I'm a walking contradiction in that sense.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, women to this day are still on the fence. Like, do I need to wear pantyhose if I decide to wear pencil skirt?
Yeah.
Because pantyhose at one point were considered a must. Showing the bare flesh was considered unacceptable. There's still standards if you are in the monarch, if you're in the royal kingdom castle in Buckingham Palace, where you have to wear neutral nails. You have to wear pantyhose anytime you bare flesh on your legs. Like that's considered good modesty and good taste, right?
So is there room for modesty in everyday life? Like is this something, is it a virtue? Is it something that we should be striving for?
Um, I believe I think it's funny how I've evolved over time because I grew up really big and I just wore whatever I could fit in. Then I got a bit older and then my weight just has fluctuated ever since. There's times where I was wearing dresses that would just barely cover my butt and they were fitted and bodycon style. And then like catching me in shorts was kind of rare, but then there's a time when I started wearing shorts. And now I'm at a stage of life where like I would never wear a dress that barely covers my butt in public. I don't know. It seems insane now to do that. It just seems like I don't know. It's just poor taste to me at this stage, you know? So I feel like as you change, your identity changes and your fashion changes with it. And people see you and they see what you're wearing before they hear you speak, right? That's the first impression, it's the first thing they know about you. The outfit you decided to wear, the sizing and the fit, all of those things come into play. Is it a virtue? What is a virtue mean? What does that really mean? Does it mean a value?
It's something that you value and you work at it until you become it.
Like a goal? Is it something
It's like a
to hold
goal.
in high esteem,
Yeah.
essentially? Right. Growing up, my dad always told me like modesty. I don't believe he said modesty is a virtue, but he said be modest. Period. Like he would get angry at me for wearing tight jeans. He'll get angry at me for wearing a fitted long sleeve crew neck because my boobs would just be popping right through. Like my boobs are in, but the point is you could still see the entire shape of everything still.
Yeah,
So
that's another thing, right? Modesty, I believe it to be, um there's a fine line with when it comes to conducting yourself the way that you should in a certain social environment. So there's that, and then there's being modest because the patriarchal society told you that you need to be, right? So if you are going to Buckingham Palace, you don't show your arms, you wear stockings. That's the the dress code, and I think you should do that.
when in Rome.
Yeah. When I go to church, I cover my arms, but I mean, do I feel like I should cover my arms? No, but I do it because out of respect for the space that I'm in. Like, I don't ever wear pantyhose because that's ridiculous to me. I don't ever. And I've gone to other countries and I've been denied entrance into certain um buildings. You can't go into a bank if you're wearing a Bati Rider shorts. You cannot go into a government building. And I feel blessed to live in Toronto where that's not the case. As long as you're wearing shoes and a shirt, you could go anywhere. But it doesn't change the fact that people will always judge you, always um, have opinions. Um, and I make the separation between modesty and virginity, so and purity. Those three things, they're separate, they're different things to me. And modesty is just something that I feel in today's age is not a virtue. Like, there's no nuance. This is a thing that people have been saying. There's no nuance, there's no being coy, there's no being subtle anymore. It's gone. So
Right.
showing your wrists, right? That's what you said the Japanese women used to do.
Yes. Yes.
They used to cover their wrists.
Yeah. Remember, the kimonos were long.
Yeah. That's beautiful to me. Like, but we're past that now. Like, those days are over.
But you see, now we've swung in the pendulum the other extreme way.
Exactly. And that's what I would want to pose to our listeners. Now that we're gone to the extreme of hypersexualism, where every time I put on a show on Netflix, it's not safe to watch with your family.
It ain't safe. It ain't safe.
And I like it. It's fine. But, it's just become the norm where, like, I can't even close my eyes. You know how you used to try and distract your parents when, like, a sex scene would come on, or, like,
God, yes,
you get
yes.
up to use the bathroom? You don't even do
Yes.
that anymore. You just sit and just watch someone having a full-on sex scene.
Yeah, man, trust me, I was playing Bridgerton while painting, and we had company in the living room, and my room is right there beside it. And I swear, everyone probably thought I was watching porn. The amount of sex scenes and the moaning and the groaning and all the explicitness of just the appear, like, it's like, in the past they would show, okay, like they're about to rendezvous, they do a couple kisses, then they shut the door and the scene is over, right?
Yeah.
Now it's like, no, we're gonna show every scene. And again, listen, I'm all for the fact that man was pleasing her, right, as he should. And I'm happy they showed that, because we need to get off this whole women's things smell like fish. Like, we're
What?
that's long overdue. The whole idea of a woman smelling like fish, all of that needs to be put to rest. So I can thank them for doing that, because if I hear a man ever bring up fish and relate it to a woman's private parts, I'll lose my mind at this stage of life. But
I've never heard such things before, but
I think, like, I've heard women's private parts be related to as a swamp. I think I've heard that as well. So
you should do. See, that's the thing that I hate too, because it's like that's a whole different conversation. But, like, you need to be more discerning about who you sleep with.
Oh, don't worry, it wasn't anyone I was
Not
sleeping
you, not you, not you. I'm saying in general. I mean, in general, because I know that most men that would refer to a woman's or describe a woman's vagina in a negative way, they still slept with that person. Like they did not deter that person. He still went there, and he probably will go there, continue to go there. So I just feel like you need to. I remember I had this gym teacher that was just awful, and I remember she was like teaching us about sex ed, in a really bad way. I mean, in a non-engaging way. Like she just did not fuck with us, and she was telling us about how sometimes like a condom can come off, um, and she was like, and everyone was like, not me, but some people were like, "What do you do if a condom comes off inside of you?" And she was like, "Well, if you can't tell your boyfriend to take it out, you shouldn't be having sex with him." But I know that I understood what she meant, but I know that went over the heads of most of the girls who were 15 years old at the time. And basically you should have a certain level of comfort with the person that you're sleeping with. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I find the empowerment and liberation can be found in virginity, because um you set your terms of what you're willing to do and how far you're willing to go. And there's something that I wanted to add about that. Oh my gosh. I completely forgot. I completely forgot.
You were saying like sex ed, she was like not fucking with you guys. Well, I wanted to bring up sex education anyways.
Mhm.
So sex education and miseducation revolving around sex is huge. And that's a huge theme in the show, Bridgerton.
Oh, I just remembered. Sorry, I just remembered. I don't mean to cut you off, but I just remembered that one of the merits of virginity is waiting until you find someone that you can have those conversations with. Because I remember when I was a teenager and everyone used to say, just do it because it's going to be horrible. Everyone's first time is horrible. This is what people would say. This was the peer pressure. It was like, your first time's not going to be good, so just do it and get it over with. And I remember my mom would say to me, she would say, um, when you decide to have sex, make sure that you don't have sex in the park, you don't have sex in a basement or in a hallway
Mm-mm.
or in a car
Mm-mm.
And she used her reverse psychology, because she was like, you could, oh, you can have sex or whatever, but just don't do it in these places. So where do teenage boys take girls? To the park, to the basement,
Mm-mm.
to the car. Like
Mm-mm.
those are the only places. They're not booking a hotel, right? They're not booking a hotel and spreading rose petals for you. So I just find like being able, like feeling so self-assured that you're going to stay a virgin and wait until you find someone that you have that comfort level that you can be like, oh, I like this or I don't like that, or you can have those conversations with, is so, that's awesome. But yes, you were saying the school education system.
Wait, but what do you mean it's awesome to talk to your parents about sex?
No, to your partner.
Oh, to be able to talk to your partner.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen. I mean, whoever you decide to sleep with for your first time, it's all you, it's all your choice. I would imagine you would have wanted them to be someone you're familiar with. You're doing a new activity. Do you want the person to be new to you as well? Probably not. Um, but I mean, at this age, most likely our listeners, you guys are all past virginity status, most
But see,
likely.
you're assuming that we don't
The
have
five
a 5
percent,
percenter. We
the
don't have a
five
5
percent
percenter.
who, the 5% who aren't,
I
who
don't
can take
believe
heed
those
to the
statistics
advice.
though. I don't believe those statistics. But yeah, go ahead.
Anyways, listen. sex education and sex miseducation is huge. It's prevalent. And actually, that's the biggest problem I feel we have today. The society is extremely hypersexual, but they're still misinformed. They're still
Yes.
miseducated. And that's actually like extremely alarming because not only are you sticking your pieces in everyone and everything, you don't even know how stuff works.
Amen.
And that's
Yep.
actually extremely alarming once again. Like, I can't be any more disgusted and distraught.
You're
So, with that being
distraught.
said,
You're
I'm distraught.
distraught.
I'm distraught to even find out partners I've had don't know what things do and how things work. It's very alarming. Now, with that being said, in Bridgerton, there's a lot of miseducation. Daphne doesn't know that she would be pregnant if a man was to pretty much,
Ejaculate in her.
yeah. And
Daphne.
that was that was actually the basis of the whole show, in my opinion. And that was actually the whole takeaway of the show to me was, wow, if you don't know what you're doing in bed before you start having sex, your life is a joke. Like, this is not okay. It's not okay that you don't know basic 101s of how babies are made. It's not okay that this man is able to exploit you because of education that you don't have. Fundamental education that you do not have, actually. He can exploit you and take advantage of you and manipulate the whole entire marriage and situation based on the fact of how naive you are.
Mhm. But the thing is, she was asking all the right questions. And that's how people are like, oh, in this day and age, if you have internet, you shouldn't be making mistakes. But poor Daphne was asking everyone around her. No one was giving her any answer.
Yeah, that's why you have a mom.
Huh?
So, question, that's why you have a mother, right? So, question to the viewers and to the listeners, will you wait for the school system to teach your kids about sex? Or are you going to take it amongst your own family resources and fill them in on what they need to know? Me personally, grade 2 was when my parents sat me down, my mother specifically, and she just said, you know, sex works like the guy takes his thing and puts it in your thing. She used other cute words at the time. And I said, oh. And then I walked away and I was disgusted. And I thought, people take their clothes off in front of each other. What the hell? And that was it.
That was all you got?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, damn, people really get naked and then do that? That sounds absolutely disgusting. I don't know why anyone would do that. And then I was like, whatever, cool. And then so when I heard about it growing up, I already kind of knew the technicals. And then I don't know. I was like, okay, cool. And then from there, that's when the story goes downhill because I was exposed to porn very young. So I got a lot of imagery. I absorbed a lot of imagery of sex at a really young age. So then I kind of felt like I knew everything then. And then once I became like, I don't know, grade 7, I was on like 17magazine.com and I was all over those like teen magazine websites and they had a lot of like sections just on sex. And if you go there, it would break down all the STDs. They had like glossaries with like
Yeah.
fun facts and like fact folders on all the different STDs and STIs and like parts of like women's anatomy. So like I just kind of educated myself with the internet, to be honest. But I've seen sex for a very long time growing up, like through images, and like I kind of became desensitized to everything. So when people were still squeamish in like high school and middle school about the whole thing, I was already very comfortable.
That's interesting because I was not exposed to porn as a teenager.
Oh, I
I
was
was
like probably
fairly
10 or
educated.
9.
And that just could be me being me, where I was like afraid that a virus or something like the computer would shut down, and then the last thing that was seen on your computer was that image. I was not
oh,
a risk taker.
oh
I was
no, no.
not a risk taker.
I had a friend and I would sleep over at her house and she's like, I have a video that my mom always left. And then she put it on the VCR. And I was like, oh, I remember that moment. That's like a life-changing moment. I will like never forget it.
Yeah, I never had like, I don't think I had like a sit down conversation, but by the time I was in grade 2, grade 3, I was watching ER and CSI, and I was reading medical books. I was actually gifted medical books. I don't know who gives a 7-year-old medical textbooks that university students would have, and literally read about anatomy. I was reading about the things that can go wrong, but I was reading about like all these medical conditions. By the
Mhm.
time I think it took a while for me to even see to get in touch with like my sexuality, because I just came into it from a medical viewpoint, like this very sterile view of it.
Mhm.
And I'm still being educated today. Um Cardi B teaches me things every day.
Like
I'm
what?
joking. I'm joking. I don't learn from Cardi B, but I don't learn from Cardi B. Uh
No, but Cardi B really be helping people. Some women really didn't know until Cardi B said, make sure he washes his hands and his whole body parts before sticking them in you. That really prevents against things like BV and possibly yeast infections because your pH can be thrown out of balance. And I mean, sometimes people don't think about that stuff. Sometimes people they don't even understand that they're not supposed to have any smells,
they're not supposed to what?
have the smells that they have.
Oh God. Oh
Someone
my
has to,
God.
sometimes like uh, news can come from the strangest places. I learn a lot of news from Instagram. I'm not saying don't fact check and be a critical thinker and do your own research on top of what triggers the first spark of curiosity in you. But I mean, listen, hey, wherever you get your information is better than not getting any information. But don't believe everything you hear just on fact, like on face value, of course, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So, will you educate your children? Will you sit them down? Or are you going to wait for the school to do it? How do you think you want to handle your future children?
Definitely not going to wait for school. I'm going to see how my children are. Right? You have to, each child is different. Like as I said, I was good with the medical books. Um, some other children would be a bit different, right? Some other children would be oh, show me yours. I'll show you mine, children. And those children, if they start early, you gotta
Mm,
talk. You have to talk very early, and there that's normal that children
mm.
would want to experiment and whatever, but you have to it just depends on the type of child you have, so when you have those conversations, but definitely not relying on schools.
Wow. So do you believe the schools are doing an adequate job of teaching our students?
I'm so far removed from what's happening in elementary schools. I have no idea.
I
I
don't even mean grade
actually
6. I mean like middle school and high school.
I actually taught I taught health and sex education to students age from grade 1 to grade 6. So basically I use the school curriculum that uh, the TDSB provides, Toronto District School Board, and the grade 1s were learning about consent, but so like basic level. But that's so important. Oh my gosh, that's the most important thing, and we will talk about it in a different episode because I will go off. I'm so passionate about it. Consent is the thing that you need to teach your child, and consent not only is consent about safety, you're giving your child social skills. You're giving them emotional intelligence by teaching them about consent. So they learned about consent in grade 1, and then by the time they're in grade 5, grade 6, they were learning about periods. But the kids were so smart. Like literally everything that I was teaching them, because I was also teaching them about drugs and medication, but the sexual health stuff, they already knew. They were well versed. They could answer my questions in detail. Children were asking me questions I didn't even know the answer to. Like one child asked me if you can get pregnant twice
What do you mean by twice?
during one gestation. So literally, if you're
Oh,
pregnant, if you're
mhm.
pregnant, for 3
Yes.
months,
Yes. Can you
and
get
then you
pregnant again?
and then can you get pregnant again? Like they were asking
Mm.
me all of these out of the box questions, and I was like, oh my gosh, if you don't know, if you don't know that your 10-year-old thinks like this, like you got to talk to your children. You have to put your phone down and talk to your children. You literally have to talk to your children. I don't care if they're talking about Minions or they're talking about Play-Doh. You need to see what they do with the Play-Doh. You need to see if they stack the Play-Doh on top of each other. You need to know you need to know what your children are doing.
Listen. One thing is, I don't think there's enough talks about STDs.
Oh, there's not. There's not because until this day, at old ass age, I don't even understand everything there's to understand.
There we go. Like, I feel like people understand sex. It's not even that complicated. I mean, animals can do it for God's sakes, but people don't seem to know about how viruses spread, and the understanding of what can lead to infertility. What are the signs to look for? What constitutes a possible transmission of a STD or an STI? How often you need to get tested, false negatives for tests, false positives, and incubation periods. Those are things that need to be talked about much
Okay,
earlier on.
but now you're doing the most now. Now you're really doing the most. Who's gonna know about incubation period? Who's gonna know that incubation is the time you're exposed to the time you start having symptoms? Who is
This is
gonna
what
know that?
nobody's gonna know. That's why we have teachers. Like I didn't expect the students to know. See how your students already knew everything you taught them? That's not the point of education. The point is to teach people things they don't know. Okay,
Oh my
like
god. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the
you should
sexual
have to do
health
tests on
practitioner
this.
saying, "Oh, let me
What
tell
is
you what."
chlamydia? They talk to you about heroin. What's heroin? How do you inject heroin? How do you cocaine? Like, so why can't we do the same with what is chlamydia? Chlamydia can possibly stop you from having children one day. You need to know that. Girls are giving head at like 8 years old now, 10 years old. They can catch chlamydia. They don't even know what chlamydia means.
The poor children, the poor babies.
Because
The
remember,
poor
they're still
babies.
virgins, right? They're still virgins, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're still virgins, but you can still catch STDs, boo.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it all ties back together. Being misinformed, worrying about being a virgin, but you don't understand how things work, it can cause bigger problems than you can even imagine. Do you know that anal sex has a more likelihood of contracting an STD because of the fact you're more likely to tear tissues,
Mhm.
especially if it's not done right?
And I was just watching Daphne, so sad because I know that Daphne's story is like the story of many women
Oh, yeah, especially around the world.
around the world. Um, but I would just love to hear what the listeners think. Do you think that the dichotomy, the polarism of virginity versus hyposexualism, what do you think about it? Do you think that we have gone too far um with the hypersexual images, lyrics? Or do you feel like every generation says this about the next generation? Do you
Well, I think we're admitting that our generation was hypersexual. The
more
music
so
and
than
stuff
the
is still in our
70s?
generation.
More so than the 70s when everyone was about free love and orgies? So it's kind of
Um,
hard to tell.
have you heard the song "Throat Baby"?
Yeah,
Have you seen that video?
yeah.
Okay. I don't think we ever seen a video like that before.
Yeah, yeah. At the very least, I will say I would love to bring back nuance and subtleness. I love I love a good metaphor. I love a good
Yes.
my guilty pleasure is talking about sex and violence in ways that are not explicitly saying the actual word. Like that's my
Yeah,
favorite
clever.
thing.
Being clever, being smart.
Yeah.
Things are
But
too blatant now.
yeah. as Janae Aiko says, pussy fairy's on the way. Like, I just love I love when it's subtle.
But
But
was that subtle to you? What do you mean on the way? Doesn't that mean yeah, exactly what I think it means? There's nothing subtle about what she said. I don't think she needed to say she should have, yeah, like pussy fairy, she should have removed the pussy part.
but she made that song and then she made a video that was like
I
90s
know.
pop choreo. Like it had nothing, there was no relating it to the lyrics. And I think that's
Yes.
also very, we can have some of that. That's how it used to be in the early 2000s. We can go back to like not having the videos be so overt and expressive. But I mean, I'm not sure if I want it to go back. I don't know if we're taking steps in the right direction, or I'm still undecided, but I do want to make sure that if the only thing we're seeing is the hypersexual woman and the false narrative that she's empowered and she's so happy and this is everything that she wanted, there, that's true for some but not for all. And I just want to see more stories of people like Daphne, and but more relative to the true day to day, where
Yes.
virgins are not just religious people, they're not just people with no social skills, all of these negative things.
Yeah, who haven't left the castle before. Yeah,
Was that?
regular. Yeah, people who haven't just left the castle for the
Yeah.
first time in
Yeah.
their life. Just a regular girl in 2025 maybe, who is like, I was busy with school and I worked at Taco Bell, and after work I hit the gym and I was tired and went to bed. I didn't have a boyfriend and I decided not to have sex yet.
Yeah, there's that. And then you sent me the video about the woman that's choosing to be celibate. Like, what about those people? Like, we can't hear anybody else's story but the one that want to touch the dangly thing. Like, that's
I
the only
mean,
thing that we
I
can
see.
hear about.
I relate with those girls, so I'm not mad at them. I like the girls who be wanting to touch the dangly thing. I get it. I don't understand. Like, I feel like if you say you're choosing to be celibate, that kind of is, I think, a trope that we have out here. I want to hear from the people who are like, I'm celibate. I haven't had sex. It's not that I'm celibate. I just haven't yet because I haven't. Not because they're trying to actively avoid it though.
So you want to hear from people that it's not by choice
Yeah,
and
I just want to
and
hear.
they're
It just
ready.
hasn't happened yet. I'm ready. Is when the right time comes, but it's just it hasn't come yet. But I'm down. That's what I want to hear from the people who are like, I'm down. I just don't like anybody.
Yeah, I'd
Because
like to
like
hear that story too.
sometimes it be that way.
I'm so into that story too. Let's have a variety of different stories, a variety of different. We're at that point now where we can tell Netflix what we want to see, and you all have made Bridgerton very, very popular. So I guess that's what you wanted to see. It wasn't my show. It wasn't my kind of show, but I like the period piece. I like that it's 18th century fiction, but I don't like the fact that this girl's virginity went on for 10, I don't know, it was like 10 episodes of this tension between her and the guy, and I didn't get a release.
Right. And then I'm happy that they decided to throw Black people in the mix. Yeah. Like, good for you, Netflix. Inclusivity. Amazing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, they just went overkill with that whole like, oh, the whole thing was a little bit like, I wanted more sex. Personally, guys, I would have liked to see sex with different people. I felt like I saw like the same couple. They're married. Yeah, they had sex. Like, you're married. What else do you do? I get it. We get it.
Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
before we close, I'm gonna expose my inner nerd. So I kept feeling like there was a similarity between Simon, the main character, and the 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 male in Sound of Music, because that's my favorite movie. There's just something that kept pulling me there, and then now that I'm looking at the cast, I see that Lady Whistledown is Julie Andrews. So that just made
Mm.
my night. Like, I'm so excited. I love Julie Andrews. And it's just crazy because I kept the show kept making me think of Sound of Music, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But yeah. So thanks so much for being here with us another week. This is a long episode. We haven't, I'm sure it's gonna be long. So we obviously like to talk about sex.
Horrible decision. Shout out to you guys. Don't worry, we're not coming for your podcast. Don't worry.
We obviously like to talk about it from a third person view.
I like talking about it. Yeah, sure. It's great.
So we'll see you next week, next Thursday, for another episode. Don't forget.
All right. Lauren signing out.
T-Bells, peace and love. Bye.
Bye.